We have many kinds of scales that we get used to that are very predictable. For instance, we all know what a major scale is, and most of us recognize it immediately in any key when we hear it. But minor scales are a bit more tricky, and the jazz minor scale seems to be two different things. The first 5 notes are very obviously minor, but then somehow it seems to switch to major after the 3rd note. This is especially noticeable when we come down the scale. For instance, in C jazz minor, it sounds just like C major until you get to the E flat. Bear Fox Wolf jokes about such scales being bipolar. I think this is a great idea and a great word, so I'm going to use that term. So let's just say that jazz minor is bipolar because it seems to be 2 different scales at the same time. Here is another bipolar scale. When we play the scale jazz musicians call superlocrian, the bottom of the scale is octatonic. However, the top of the scale is whole tone. And when you play this scale coming down, you hear only the whole tone scale until you get to the last 3 notes. Here is one more bipolar scale. Lydian mode has sharp 4. Mixolydian has flat 7. But there is a scale that is both at the same time. Jazz musicians call it Lydian dominant because it fits beautifully over a dominant 7 chord. But in my mind, it is half Lydian and half Mixolydian. This is truly bipolar. Now comes the rabbit hole. We also have bipolar chords. Let's start off with the G dominant 7 chord, which is perhaps the easiest and most basic kind of 7 chord we can play on the piano. So let's start on that in the left hand. Now let's play an A flat diminished chord in the right hand. These 2 chords seem to be totally different, and you would think they can't possibly work together. In fact, they form a G7 flat 9 chord, and that is not only a favorite chord of jazz musicians, it has been popular with traditional composers, at least as far back as Bach. This little trick works in any key. You simply play a dominant 7 chord in the left hand, and then you play a diminished chord that is 1/2 tone higher in the right hand. The reason this works is that 3 of the 4 notes in the right hand are exactly the same as the notes in the left hand. Only one of those notes in the right hand is 1/2 tone higher, and that note is always the flat 9. Here is another one of my favorites. Play that same G dominant 7 chord in the left hand. Now play a dominant 7 chord in the right hand. You would think these 2 chords will not work together, but it turns out when you do this, you end up with a G13 chord with a sharp 11. Once again, you can do this in any key. You simply play any dominant 7 chord in the left hand, and then you play another one in the right hand that is a tone higher. This will always form that cool 13 chord, the one with the sharp 11. The beautiful thing about chords like this is you can just play them and not worry about how to notate them, unless you are ready to write them out. So now you know the story of bipolar scales and chords. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, leave me comments about anything you like, anything you'd like to see in the future, and remember that I consider all suggestions.